referred us to his management firm, Oceanic Productions Limited. And they came in to hear us, they liked us, and I'm recapping this from the last session for those who didn't know how we signed with Capital. So we went in, and he got us an edition of Capital Records. We went in, sat down, played just a couple of minutes of stormy weather, and that was it. Just, you got it. So that's how that began. So from there, it was a matter of preparing contracts and so forth, all the legal stuff that's covered, and then doing scheduling recording dates with additional musicians on the session, violin players, horn players, and so forth. But it was a great experience. I loved the sound of Capitol Records. It was a big studio, it was arch-shaped, and it just had a big, big sound. I really loved that sound. I always liked that big sound to begin with. From my first band, musically from my first band in the Andells, right up through present day with the current band, Class Act featured Rita, I've always maintained that big sound, big solid sound. I never liked anything timid sounding. I'm not saying you can't play quiet, I'm not saying that, use dynamics and so forth, but I'm saying there was a certain band sound that I always went for, and I tried to maintain that through the years to be consistent with that. So, moving on, the Whitaker Center. Whitaker Center started for us with Class Act featuring Rita in 2001. Well, let me back up. Class Act featured Rita. I formed that group in 1980. My wife and I have had that group continuously since then. We're still performing. But we were opening for two groups for that first concert for the Delphonics and for the Intruders down in Philadelphia. That was our first concert at the Whitaker Center. Our second concert was 2002 there, and that was upon the request of the Whitaker Center itself. They asked us about coming in, they think we could do a show, and I said, yeah, we can do a show. So we did. That was our first of a series of concerts at the Whitaker Center between 2002 and 2010, which was the last one. To date, Class Act featuring Rita with special guests Dave Bubb and Buddy King holds the house record for the number of consecutive sellouts in concerts, regardless of whoever been booked there, and the number of ticket sales per concert, regardless of what acts they brought in. The record still stands. As we speak, I just got the information the other day from the contact person, because before COVID hit, I was about to meet with Whitaker Center because they were interested in us, we were interested in returning there to begin concerts again. But COVID shut everything down. That closed down the Whitaker Center. Their management, I think, has changed hands again during the last 2 years. So I got the contact person. I am going to be contacting them in the very near future, because we did have a lot of requests for people asking about us coming back to do a concert. People love the concerts, which is great. So did I. I did want to acknowledge that one of the former members of Class Act featuring Rita is here tonight, former bass player Bill Lewis from New York. Bill's been with us a long time, a very fine player and a very fine person, and it was a pleasure and honor to work with you. Thank you for all your help and hard work. Now, I'm going to talk a little bit about the transition from groups to groups. A lot of people say, if they don't know it, they'll understand it, but might not understand it, but if they know it, they'll understand it. Transition from the Magnificent Men into carrying over that sound into Class Act featuring Rita. And this was interesting. because I tried to maintain that sound. I remember seeing an interview with Sean Connery, and he had said that no matter what he did after the James Bond movies, how many movies he did, how great they were, all the people always identified him as with James Bond. He couldn't lose that, couldn't strike that image. Well, we were kind of in the same boat with the Magnificent Men, and where when Magnificent Men ended, and Class Act was formed, a lot of people started saying, well, why can't you do some Magnificent Men? What are you going to do Magnificent Men? And yes, we were going to do some Magnificent Men, more than I realized we would be doing. But there was an association there that a lot of people don't realize, because after the Magnificent Men, the first group that I started up was Rita and Heartbeats. And at that time, the first Magnificent Men to join that was Billy Ricker, the keyboard player, okay? And that group, that lasted from 74 to 78. Then, after that, when I formed the original Class Act featured Rita, Tom Payne, the sax player and background vocalist from the Magnificent Men, was in that group. Then when Class Act featuring Rita continued, we were changing personnel at different times. Jim Seville, the bass player from the Magnificent Men, joined Class Act featuring Rita. And then we did various appearances from time to time with Buddy King, you know, and also from the Endells, we did appearances with one of the former Endells, Art Proctor, at a number of shows and dances. I tried to continue through that line of thinking. My thought was, well, a lot of people do want the combination of both groups now. How do we do this? But I don't know, it was kind of awkward, because some of the guys sometimes wanted to do it, some of the times they didn't want to do it. So it's very difficult as far as, you know, how you put that together. Because the public expects, well, if you're going to do the Magnificent Men, you got to have all the originals. And more times than not, it didn't work out like that. But I'm sorry it didn't. I tried to make that happen, but a lot of things have changed over the years. Music was changing. You know, at the end of the Magnificent Men reign, music was changing. And by the end of 1970, the Magnificent Men was no longer in existence in its original form. It changed hands. It continued as the Magnificent Men, and with different personnel in the group. It lasted between 70 and 72, and they had some really fine musicians playing in the group. And the only thing is their choice of material changed. They were still being booked at venues that the original Magnificent Men were playing in. And some of the material they did was excellent. It was a lot more sophisticated and complex than what the Magnet ever played. But the audiences didn't care for them, unfortunately, because they weren't familiar with some of the material they were doing. They came there expecting to hear stuff off of Capitol albums and so forth. And then that lasted for an additional year, where there was yet another change till the end of 73, and that was the end of it. So we weren't sure it was going to happen from there. I will say that the final version of the Magnificent Men occurred in 1986. I wasn't sure of some of the details. I can tell you this is the group that started. It was called Full Circle, okay, in which Dave Buck and Buddy King had formed with some other local musicians and vocalists. Dusty Rhodes, who was also in Rita and Heartbeats, was in that group as well. I don't know who the other musicians were, but I know they were good players, because they did cut a mini album. I think it had 4 sides on it, and that was called Full Circle. But they went back to our former manager, Oceanic Productions Limited with Ron Gitman, so that they could get bookings. In doing so, Ron talked them into changing the name to the Magnificent Men. So they did, but it was a good group. Singing was fine, playing was fine. Didn't exactly sound like what I would put out there for the Magnificent Men, because I like the more of a, I just have a sound defined and that I always go for and I've been continuous with. But that's just my own personal likes, but they're a very fine group. I don't know what happened with the group. I know it lasted, I talked to Dave up last week about it, and Dave had mentioned that, he said that he thought it lasted about 6 months during that year, and that was about it. That's the last I had heard anything. A lot of people asked about who's where. Where are the Magnificent Men? Well, Dave Bupp is still living in New York. He's retired now. He does not want to do anything in the way of music. I had tried to get him out the door to perform once again after the years at the Whitaker Center. He said, no, please respect the fact that I am retired. I do not want to perform, period. And he still feels that way. But he's still living in New York. Buddy King is still living in New York. I don't know how Buddy's doing right now. The last time I talked to him was about a month ago, and he had a very bad case of COVID. As a matter of fact, he was in the hospital for 2 weeks, and the last conversation I had with him, after getting out of the hospital, he moved in with his sister because he needed constant care, because Buddy has COPD pretty bad. And he was singing in church. I know I'll go back to that once he recovers from this, but he said he'll probably just go back to singing in church with his sister. Terry Crozier, the guitar player. Terry he has a horse ranch out in Sandpoint, Idaho. That was something he always wanted to do, but that's where he's living. Jim Seville lives in Harrisburg. He moved a couple years ago from over at near Cedar Cliff to the Harrisburg area, and he's resigned from music as well. Billy Richter, he lives in the Mechanicsburg area. He just retired about a year and a half ago from David's Furniture Store. He was the manager there. So, but Billy's still around. And did I get everybody?
Tom Hoover.
Tom Hoover. Tom Hoover was with the Magmen the first year, dropped out within the first year. And he moved to Washington State. He died about 10 years ago. And that's the last I had heard anything about him. Tom Paine, yeah, okay. Oh boy, how could I forget that? I'll hear that. Tom Paine is living in the Lewisburg area, and Tom Paine is presently with Class Act featuring Rita. It's a lot of people to remember here. I'm trying to remember my own name at this point. But that's what's happening with everybody in the band. Now, so what is next?
You mentioned Dusty Rhodes.
Pardon me?
You mentioned Dusty Rhodes.
Yes.
I'm his sister-in-law, and this is Dwayne's brother. He lives right down the street here on Pulling Mill Road. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. He just passed away 3 months ago.
Yes. I did know that Dusty did pass away. Yeah. Very talented guy. Excellent singer. Good bass player. And yeah, I did know that. That's happened to a number of our musicians who are, just musicians in my own band alone. But I'm sorry.
He loved his singers.
And I just, sorry to interrupt, but Paula and Dwayne, they brought some things from Dusty Rhodes.
Okay.
CD, so they're here if anyone wants to look at them.
All right. Yeah. You can bring them up here if you like to as well. What happened next was really something that we didn't count on. It's a gentleman from York named Mike Leash. And Mike Leash is a very talented guy. He initially used to be a trombone player, but he became a producer, he became an arranger, and he formed his record company. And two things happened. He started something called the Class of 60-something. And the Class of 60-something were York dances that were put on twice a year, in the fall of the year and the spring of the year. And Class Act featured Rita became the house band for that for the past, I think, around, I'm not sure if anybody can correct me on this, I think around 24 years. Up until 2 years ago when we stopped doing them because of COVID. And Mike not only ran these dances, we were trying to hold on to what we did, which was classic, classic R&B, and the audience that supported that. Mike also then gave all of us in the cast of Class of 60-something the opportunity to record, in which we yielded 4 CDs, volume 1 through volume 4 of the Class of 60-something, which is a great experience. I mean, here I'm thinking, boy, it's really starting to add up. We did 4 albums on Capitol. We did 4 albums on Mike Leash's label, and then we did a 5th, a Class Act featuring Rita. We did our own album under Mike's label. So it was amazing because we didn't realize how much we were going to get involved with more recordings. But Mike, I'm not sure what's going to be, what the future will be for the dances right now. I know he's not doing anything this year, but we'd hope to resume those. I think we'd love to do it, but I don't know what's going to happen. A number of things have changed in the last 2 years, with people passing away, people getting older, with COVID, and with just things in general. I know a lot of people ask me that question, and I cannot answer that for you at this time. I just know at this time there's no plans for dances. We were the house band for the Class of 60-something dances, with the exception of a couple occasions. There was a group that came on the scene with some of our former players, which was called the OGs, and they were self-contained. We had a rhythm section behind 4 of the singers, and they had performed with us. And Bill was in that group, and Chuck, like one of the former Class Act keyboard player, Chuck Ross, was in that group, and former guitar player from Class Act, Dan.
And I can explain.
Pardon me?
I can
Yeah. So it's like some of the former Dell chords, and it just it was great experience. We loved every minute of it, but and then any additional artists that were brought in who were not from local artists. Local artists, in this case, being people from the Tri-County area of Lancaster and York and Dauphin counties. We backed up Eddie Holman, and we backed up Soul Survivors. I don't remember who else we backed up. I thought there was someone else, but I'm not sure. Anybody remember? Recall? I don't remember anybody else, but I know they were the 2 artists that came in. I thought there was a couple others. But anyway. Collectible Records put out a compilation of the Magman Capitol records. There's a copy of it up here. If you go online, if you want to find it, it's become very expensive. I remember when they were about $15, and now I hear things like they're selling for $70 to $100. That's very nice. We don't get anything out of it. Very nice. I did want to talk about some of the work that we're doing in the future here. Class Act featuring Rita is continuing on, and we are carrying on faithfully what we do. Mostly rhythm and blues, but other material, other types of material as well being worked in. We're still do a professional presentation, and it's something that we looked at. People would ask, well, where are you going to be playing? Well, for 26 years, we did the church dance on St. Patty's Day weekend, not always on St. Patty's Day. It was at our church, at Seven Sorrows Church in Middletown here. This year, because of COVID, they thought they want to do it, but they don't want to do it as early. They didn't want to do it as early as March. They said they want to see how the figures continue to go down. So we did get scheduled. We are going to have that dance, but it's going to be called the Spring Fling. And that's going to be on May the 21st. And we're going to put these on our website during the next week or so, because there's other dates coming up. A lot of people ask about the website. I can only put public dates on there. I cannot put private work, because private work, we do all types of work. We do corporate work, we do wedding receptions, we do private, retirement parties or anything. But any of the work that we have is other than public. By law, I cannot put on our website. That's the first date. The second date I want to remind you of will be at the Fuzzy Few Hummelstown Fair. And that's going to be on Wednesday, August the 10th. And then the third public date is that's going to be at the Radisson in Camp Hill. And that's going to be on November 25th. That's going to be Return to the Raven 2. Okay? And that is sponsored by Vicky's Angels to raise money for the American Cancer Society. And one of the board members here is with us tonight, Mike Davis. And he's very instrumental in coordinating that program.
That's Black Friday.
Black Friday. Black Friday, yes. The Friday after Thanksgiving, November 25th. And at that, we're going to be doing 2 dance sets. Since it's Return to the Raven, we're going to be doing more straight-up rhythm and blues. From that list of artists I gave you, we'll be doing some material for some of those artists. It's kind of a throwback. But that's what they had asked for. For the first 2 dance sets, that's what that will be. The third set is going to be the Magnificent Men Tribute Show. And that's where we do material from, we were doing that with the material just from the Capitol albums. Now we picked 2 songs off of the Mercury album, Better Than 10 Cent Movie. One of them, which was Holly Go Softly, and the other was Still Good. But that was some of the forthcoming stuff that's coming up. I'm doing a podcast tomorrow night with a guy out of Philadelphia named Ollie Hatchett. And Ollie Hatchett is big for doing interviews with singers, musicians, entertainers, and a lot of them are entertainers that perform the Uptown Theater. I'm going to be doing it tomorrow at 9 o'clock with Ollie Hatchett. He had recently, some of the people he did, I guess, just the past couple of weeks, he did Claudette Robinson, which is Smokey Robinson's ex-wife. She still has the Miracles. He also, he did one with Bobby Wilson, Bobby Wilson is Jackie Wilson's son, very talented guy. Okay, and he did one with Anthony from Anthony and the Imperials, and numerous artists from the past in the R&B field. So I felt very flattered that he wanted to talk to us about it. And the odd part about some of this stuff is hard. It's difficult because I can't get mad men out for some of this. I tried to get some of the guys to come out here tonight. It's just, I don't know. It's just different. That's hard to explain, but you get me. I did want to mention to you, and the only two original maintenance men that are still performing is Tom Payne and myself. No. Anyway, what I wanted to say is, the only two musicians